Greetings, one and all. I'm Kerrik52, and as promised, here is a special intermission episode of the Let's Play where we take a look at the Hudson Soft TurboGrafx-CD version of Ys 1 and 2, named Book 1 and 2. Roll the clip now. As I alluded to in an earlier episode, this is one of the first games ever with proper voice acting, and it's just a nice little historical oddity to think of playing this in 1990 of all times. So spoilers, we will actually find out where Ys vanished to at the end of this episode.
Ys, the ideal utopia. Once a country so peaceful and prosperous. A country where children were as free as the wind. A country where harmony blew through the hearts of all men. Ys, a kingdom ruled by the wisdom and charity of its 6 powerful priests. An empire watched over and blessed by the enchanting aura of its 2 beautiful goddesses. Ys, the seemingly tranquil paradise suddenly pulled from the height of its civilization to the empty abyss of infinite isolation. How could such a land of promise simply vanish from the face of the planet? How could such prosperity be forgotten? The legend has been silenced for over 700 years. And now, the mystery unfolds.
That was none other than Alan Oppenheimer. Goddamn Skeletor is our narrator. But beyond the voice acting, we also have some kick-ass remixes to work with, accompanied by this super sweet 90s anime intro thing. I love it so much. Much more than the actual anime, which you can find on YouTube, both dubbed and subbed. The animation isn't that inviting, and they kind of pad it out. Though in their defense, they do have some fun remixes. Now from what I checked out, there are a couple of spoilers in there, so maybe save that for at the end of Ys 2 if you're interested. Now obviously the TurboGrafx-CD wasn't the most popular thing in the world, but I would really like to talk to people who have actually played this when it was new. It must have been amazing, because is that the same time as the Super Nintendo? 1990? Or was that 91? It's around then. We'll get into graphics soon, but just think of comparing this to the Super Nintendo version of Final Fantasy IV, for example. So already this is non-canonical, because that boat survived with Adol on it. That's just not right. In fact, not only is this kind of weird, they don't have Barbado at all. That was an invention of the remake. Of the second remake. This is the first remake, more or less. Very Final Fantasy 1 on him, of him. So instead of Barbado and recovering in the hospital, you just get picked up by Sarah immediately. So as you can see, they've maintained a lot of the vibes in the Chronicles version. There's a fun one. This is Lair, not Rhea. And she doesn't get a portrait. That does sound like Pim. Now then, time for some gameplay. So, the song is intact. And good as always. And gameplay is basically the same, but the big omission here, of course, is there isn't any diagonal movement. So there is a slight different feel. You kind of have to make enemies get stuck on you in order to fight them. And you also have to sideline them and hit them on the side before you can kill them correctly. There's the mine, so no Rastia village that's been destroyed. That was also an invention of the remake. What I'm doing here is the same thing as I did in the Let's Play, where I'm looking for the golden vase. But it's not actually visible on the map, so it's a proper secret now. There we go. You can't heckle with Pim either, so you just sell the stuff and get the money immediately. Never look better, my man. Never look better. So we have the same quest as before as well, where we need to pick up the ring and give it to the one-eyed man. And that was a free level up, which is good because those early enemies give you jack and squat. And with that, we can skip the short sword, much like how you can get the short sword for free in the remake. No free swords here though, until you get the silver one. And here I realized I was a bit too poor. But just skipping to the second tier of sword does a lot, as you would expect. The damage calculation formula for early Ys games isn't very complicated. Who needs fighting anyway? And yeah, I've been cutting out a lot of faffing about. I actually used this to practice for the Let's Play. So I faffed about and did some suboptimal things here and there, so my total footage time is about 4.5 hours, but you could probably cut that down by like 50 something if you're efficient. And then we have another translation, well, not even oddity, it's just a decision really. We have Jebba instead of Jebba. And I think they translate Tova as Toba, so they made the opposite BV decisions in this version compared to XE. And here you can see how annoying it is to traverse the world with only normal directions. It's kind of odd that they curved things like this to begin with. But running around in the world is one thing. What about Genocris? Well, you could pulverize him, that's cool. I wouldn't say I was over-leveled here, though for other bosses I certainly am, which is a key difference in this version. Now then, time to go and rescue Fina. I ran around here half lost quite a while. A couple of chests changed places. And the enemies can be a bit rough.
Are you here to rescue me? How wonderful it would be to escape these chains. I have been locked up here for too long. My name is Fina.
No, Fina, don't attract the attention of the goons. No. So that's a very fun thing about the translation of this game, where I think they substituted the word demon for goon in every single instance. So we're fighting goons the entire game. Also, she gives you the treasure key. She's voiced by Debbie Derryberry, also known as Jimmy Neutron. So here's Nig Tilger. This guy is a complete bastard in this version, as you can see. I think I mentioned him being completely nullified by directional movement. Diagonal movement. Damn it, I made that mistake again. Too many words begin with D. So this took me like 12 tries, I think. I probably should have gone to grind a bit more, but what can you do? It does feel mostly luck-based though, especially when you get these really good strings of attacks. Very nice and hectic though. I would have liked the version in Chronicles to be somewhere in between this and the existing Chronicles version. Because it is intense, but this is too hard in my opinion. Thankfully, this game actually gives you pre-boss checkpoints even if you don't save, something the Chronicles version doesn't do. Also, since Fina stays behind, there isn't an escort quest either, which makes sense, that's a complicated thing, and why would they add that? I played around with the rings, and they also don't affect the bosses in this version, as far as I can tell. So here is a slight difference as well. So Rhea is the one who has the book now. Doesn't really matter, since you won't need it until the end of the game anyway. It also comes off as a bit weird that she just wouldn't give it to you, but she has her reasons. And there's our ultimate weapon, the almighty katana, because of course you can't have a Western fantasy game without your best normal weapon being a katana. And that's all you get. We must find our harmonica. Best to do so, but first it's important to stock up. Kinda stupidly expensive in this version, but what can you do? So the mine is rough. Not only is your sight pretty bad in this version, but the enemies are also pretty tough. I went many a trips in and out of this place to grind. I like the vibe though. It's also interesting to see that the Chronicles version has very similar looking enemies to this. So they've been very consistent about the design of everything. And you can see here that Minea also has the same structure and everything. It's only a couple of things here and there that differ. My stance on like remakes and things of that nature is add things all you want, it should just make the game better. Either more context, you know, more roomy levels if the game demands it. It's a difficult question, especially when you're actually producing it and have to make those decisions. Yeah, I'd say that was worth 500 experience points. It's a good song. And then for the silver sword, it's also a little bit different, as you'll see. So the whole like western part of the plains doesn't really exist. Everything is instead here on the east side. This is after eating the Rhoda tree fruit as well. And then we teleport 30 meters down and to the left. I always found the term Godspeed to be kind of funny because I always associate it with Star Ocean 2, where it just makes you go really fast. But that is fitting for Adol. Now, here's Vagulion. This thing is a bastard. Now, I swear that if you stand still, you can actually manipulate him into becoming tangible faster. Unlike the Chronicles version. I haven't really proved it. But what I did prove is that you can actually overlevel for this. Which I do recommend. It's pretty hard anyway, because you need to make perfect 90-degree cuts into him to avoid damage. So I did like a third of his health already, so you'd think this would be cake, but no. You still have to play very defensively. And time things correctly. But you'll note, we're not at max level. We can level a lot more than this. So much so that the rest of the bosses are pretty easy, save for one, I think. And here is this strange room missing both goddess statues. Still not sure why they talk about only one missing, unless something weird has happened since someone was down there. But that's the initial books in hand, which means it's time to talk to Jeba. Or Jeba. Whichever. So we don't get the scene at the docks with Fina. That's also a Chronicles edition. Not that she has much to say anyway. Yeah, it's Toba instead of Toba. Or Tobu? Since we're moving into Ys 2, it's important to keep all of this information in mind, which is why I thought it'd be good to have it as a little reminder going in. And so it did. I'm not sure I would call Adol well built, explicitly. I mean, he is basically the settings equivalent of a demigod, effectively speaking, but he is still kind of a twig.
Oh, I have heard about your bravery. You're going to Darm Tower to find the book, aren't you? The locals here call it the Tower of Death. You can imagine why. The door only opens from one direction, so none of the gruesome creatures inside can creep out. Once you go in there, you'll never be able to get back out. If you are really as brave as they say you are, then the entrance to the tower is at the back of this house. Good luck. You'll need it.
So that's Thomas Hayden Church, who you may know as Dwayne the Exterminator from Over the Hedge. I kinda had to dig for some of these. Anyway, welcome to Darm Tower. That was quick. The song is funky as always. This place is mostly the same. It's some finer details here and there that's different. Mostly in the balancing, and the way certain enemies move, and just the relative sizes of the rooms and stuff like that. But otherwise, it's pretty much one-to-one. I'm just walking around here, trying to decide where to go. Since, again, this was my practice, so I wasn't really sure where things were. Trying to read the guide I'm using from the year 2000 also isn't the easiest. I had to clean it up a fair bit. I don't know if you have looked at those kinds of guides in a while, but they have a certain je ne sais quoi of weird internet people who you kind of have to listen to in order to extract useful game information from. It's a fun vibe, but I prefer when things are more edited and thought out. Like, I was reading a guide for Ninja Gaiden 2, and it had an old old promise of like adding the first health power up to the guide in the next revision. And hey, that's how this is balanced. But that's the most obvious health upgrade in the game, so you don't need it to be told. But I was just sitting there thinking, why wouldn't you just write it down? It's the first one. But yeah, it's a hobby. So I shouldn't make demands, really. And I appreciate all the assistance I can get, especially for old games like this. So time to say hi to Luda, who we haven't seen up to until now.
Hello, I'm Luda Gemma. Not long ago, I was walking through the many corridors of this tower. As I turned a corner, I came across a long hall with many stone statues lining its walls. Suddenly, an old man appeared in front of me. As our eyes met, he panicked and disappeared into the wall. Soon after, I was caught by the goons.
Tragic. So that's Kingdom Hearts 2 Timon, Bruce Lanoil. Also not a very proficient or famous voice actor. And here's Colin. I understand I'm not translating the name Dogi, but Colin doesn't really suit him, I don't think. He needs a name with impact. So instead of Raba, it's Rasta, which is a fair translation, I think. I haven't looked at the Japanese names, but I can guess about what they would be. Menu is a little bit worse, but it's very functional, and the fact that you can quick save wherever you want is just amazing. I of course had to get caught in the trap at least one extra time. No funny description, but Dogi is still upset with you. Thanks, man. Though weirdly enough, you only have the one hole there. I don't know what that's about. Oh yeah, remember this room? This room is scary in this version. So, frame perfect pause. Death. Much better. Good XP to boot. Which again, you actually want in this version, instead of running around at level 10 as you begin it. I'm at 3800 XP here. I think I'm going up to 11,000 by the end, so there is a lot of leveling to be done. The Chronicles version of 2 will actually pick this up a little bit, as that game's leveling system is a lot more granular than the first games. Alright, time for Pictimos. I kind of had this a bit backwards when I talked about him in the episode. I was just coming off of this version, where he is a right bastard. It's Basically, it's a better designed fight, but the controls kind of betray it, just because his hitbox is a bit difficult. Also, you can escape bosses on accident, which happens to me more times than I care to count. So the trick here is, of course, to wait until all three are out. That makes it more predictable. But it's still very hard, and you have to get a bit lucky here and there. But if you don't care about luck, well, it's Ys. A single level up will do. I haven't really talked about this, but it's both for damage, so you can hit like the intended damage, but also for defense, which gives you a lot more effective health. It can be the difference between like your current survivability and an extra 2 or 3 hits, depending on the fight. As the series goes along, they kind of drop this design philosophy a little bit, and generally just becomes too easy in my opinion. But in the early games, you level up or you die. I mean, it's an RPG, that's what it should be, right? Actually, don't answer that. An RPG could be many a thing. So I'm just skipping past the evil corridor thing. Well, we can talk to Luda again. And he isn't bleeding to death in this version, so that's nice. So here is a very sad omission. There isn't actually a Mirror Maze song in this version. Nor is there a version of Tension, that really kick-ass main dungeon theme at the second half of Darm Tower. Otherwise, I'm really content with the soundtrack. These are good mixes. But still, those 2 missing songs. Off we go to new heights. So, how's Consklard in this version, if Pictimos is such a bastard? Even easier! I may have been overleveled. Though I'd argue I wasn't, because I got 2 level ups out of that. What the hell? Consklard is a lot worse in Ys Origin, actually. I kind of forgot that was actually him in that game. It's, I think it's the boss I've had the most trouble with one of the characters. So we get a nice view here. Not in the other outside terraces. And no moons either. So here are the Molfes creatures that I talked about, how they were just kind of nothing in Chronicles, whereas here they will kill you. I feel like I got really lucky here with the time to heal. That could have ended a lot worse. Right, evil thoughts, evil thoughts. Kicking puppies. There we go.
Adol, it's me, Lair, the poet. I knew you had the courage to save me, but to be honest with you, I allowed myself to be caught. I didn't know any other way to find you. I have something of great interest for you. You are aware of the books of Ys, but not everyone can read these books. I have a pair of glasses that will allow you to do so. You have shown your courage, and I see you as our only hope. Please, take the glasses.
Girl, could you get out of the way, please? I can't read the text box.
The demon who locked me here is Darkfact. He is plotting to use his evil powers to make this land his own. You must defeat Darkfact if we are to have any chance.
Her actress is Stevie Valance, who is none other than Sonia the Hedgehog from Sonic Underground. You're welcome for that knowledge. More books to read, of course. Okay, they actually use the word devil there, so am I wrong about the demon to goon conversion? So, since this was my practice run, I didn't think to backtrack at this point. I think the guide also wasn't very clear on that. But you don't have to worry, I cut all that shit out. So now we're here in this corridor. I had the thought while recording the Chronicles iteration of this hallway that I was kind of in over my head, because it's very easy in this version. Probably because I was over-leveled. What isn't easy is this hallway. You have to be very, very careful here, so you can get your flame sword. And you can really see how I sort of have to get the enemies to stick to me in this version of the combat system. The Chronicles version of Ys 2 also changes gameplay a little bit, even though it's the same engine. Which is an interesting thing to just have the immediate sequel, with sequel-like changes just packed in like that. Wah wah wah. So, what about the Wonder Twins? I kind of forgot how the gimmick worked here, so this took me a little while. Also much harder, since you can't move around the projectiles as easily. I'd still argue it's a pretty well balanced fight. If you go for the right head. But an extra level up also helps. I'm very good at this game. Just like in Chronicles, as long as you can get to the final bit here, it's basically free. These guys also have a fun variant to them in Ys Origin. So here I realized my mistake. And then I ran all the way back down and grinded a fair bit as well.
My father has told me of our land's legend. He said that the key to defeating the demons lies in the Books of Ys. There are many mysteries left to unfold, but the books can be your guide. This is a charm that has been handed down from our ancestors of long ago. Take it with you. It will help you break the evil curse of dark fact.
But it doesn't help you walk all the way back. So, Dark Fact here is kind of the reason why I wanted to make this video in the first place. Because he has a very special voice actor who I am quite the fan of. I also wanted to compare the versions of the fight, of course, but let's enjoy the scene.
I know you are searching for the secrets contained within the books, and you have done well so far. I am impressed by your daring ambition, but of course you are still defenseless against my superior powers. The name Dark Fact will be the scourge of all men to come. Oh, you are brave, but you are also a fool. You have no chance without the protection of the silver equipment. Knave, prepare to die!
So that's Michael Bell, aka Crackerjack from Darkwing Duck, and Raziel from Legacy of Kain. Awesome voice actor. I really wish he got more work, but he shows up in a couple of places if you know where to look. So this is the same fight, as you would expect. But your lackluster mobility is the real clincher here, but the game has balanced for it, at the very least. I was very rusty, as you can see. But a little bit of practice. And you can just pulverize him. So in this version, I really like the visuals. In the Chronicles version, it's kind of overstuffed. Wow, that's so much easier. And I wasn't even max level, as you can see. Yeah, I found the button. To lift our land out of harm's reach. Oh, that's a spin on Atlantis, if I ever heard one. But instead of the ending we got in Chronicles, here's the intro to Ys 2!
All communication to Darm Tower has been cut off. What should we do to stop this rogue? His bravery presents an interesting challenge. Let's see how far this Adol character can go before we crush him. Very well then, sir.
If only they knew. That is not in fact Tony J, that is Jim Cummings, aka Winnie the Pooh. And also Alan Oppenheimer again. So I want you to commit this to memory, because this sequence here for the intro is essentially what we're getting once we move into Ys 2 in Chronicles. But it's such a good vibe. And you can actually see what happens to Adol. He gets flung into space. Just A-posing into infinity. Ah, the song's so good. We did it! We found Ys! Shonen Pro Tag incoming! Hello?
Are you all right? Me? I am Lilia from Rance Village. I felt a cold shiver down my spine, and I felt compelled to come in this direction. Then I found you lying here on the ground, your body surrounded by a pure white light. This is the land of Ys. There are many goons patrolling this.
God damn it!
Quickly, let's go to my village before they find us.
You could have just used the word monsters, guys. But I guess it's funnier this way. That was Maya Motinu, who only has 2 credited roles that I could find. One being this, and the other being Katie Kangaroo in the 1980s cartoon Kangaroo, which I have never heard of. It was really fun to look into all of these actors, as you get reminded of just how many forgettable cartoons were made in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Probably something worth looking into if you're interested in that sort of thing. But for us, what's on the docket is, of course, to play Ys 2. So next time, we will jump into the Chronicles version and you will see the fancy pants version of the intro you just saw. And then we'll explore Ys. In Ys. That only happens in a few of the games. Until then, farewell.